Now to our other big story tonight. The Oregon Department of Forestry started their annual aerial survey today to check on the state's forests. It's something they've done since 1947. Over the next several months, crews will fly in a grid over the trees to try and spot signs of damage from the air. Here's Sean McKenzie, who leads the project.
We have an observer on either side of the plane, and they look out 2 miles, and they're trained to recognize sort of a confluence of factors. So host species, biogeography, where they are in the state, and what insect species and what tree species might be present, and then visual signatures of a particular death from a particular insect.
And those signatures of death may be tough for you and I to recognize, but the experts can do it from the skies.
You can see that there's the thinning, declining, narrowing crown in these very tall, very skinny, pointy looking trees. And so that's the visual signature we clue in on from the sky to look for balsam woolly adelgid. This is something we see, tends to be at higher elevations because it tends to affect, it can affect most of our true firs, but we particularly see this a lot in Abies lasiocarpa, the subalpine fir.
ODF also does on-the-ground research to monitor the health of Oregon's forests. Earlier this week, our team joined them along the east slope of Mount Hood to check out some damage to the forest caused by an insect called the fir engraver. Their telltale signs are visible just under the bark of damaged trees.
Oh my God, we've got a larva. So you can actually see one larva right here. And so as they basically eat the sapwood, so that would be the cambium and the phloem layers of the tree, and then as they work their way across, they form these kind of incisions, which are called their larval galleries.
This combination of air and ground checkups culminate in an annual report. We're getting a look at last year's results when ODF says they found unprecedented damage to trees due to wildfire and insects. This map shows the damage to the forest last year from drought, heat, and other weather damage aside from fire, as well as insects and disease. The darker red spots are more concentrated damage. They recorded 2.26 million acres of new damage in the last year, not related to fires.
With climate change, we've been really noticing that we've had worsening effects of drought and heat, and oftentimes drought and heat are really the stressors that make our trees decline, and a lot of times our beetles are the final thing that finish them off.
McKenzie says the trends in the data show that over the past 5 to 10 years, they've seen significant growth in the amount of forest damaged by insects that move in after drought and heat events. The majority of the trees damaged were pine species, especially ponderosa pine, true firs, and Douglas firs. And the worst hit areas were northeastern Oregon and the eastern foothills of the Cascades, especially the Rogue Valley, where large numbers of Douglas firs have been killed by the flat-headed fir borer, which is not usually lethal. McKenzie says tree mortality can lead to more tree mortality. Dead trees attract more insects, provide fuel for wildfires, and make it harder for new trees to grow. In the past 30 years, annual precipitation has fallen, although 2024 saw more rain than an average year. McKenzie says more rain can help, but it's not necessarily the solution.
It's not just how much rain we got in a particular year, but it's when we got it, in how many events we got it, and then where it fell, because the moisture stress the trees experience is sort of a combination of how much water's in the soil, and that depends on what kind of soil they have, and then when that rain fell and how hot it's been. So you might have a year where, okay, maybe we're a little below average on rain, but it's been a pretty cool year, and that rain fell throughout the season, so the trees aren't going to be quite as stressed. Where maybe we have a year where we're well above our annual precipitation normals, but that all fell in December through March, and then it became warm and dry at the end of March, and the trees are going to be stressed.
ODF's report says there are no long-term drought-tolerant solutions for most tree species in the Pacific Northwest, and prolonged or repeated droughts often will end up killing those trees. sometimes years later.